Hi everyone, it's Jay Egersdorff here, previewing Game Week 14 of the Fantasy Premier League. Pretty glad Game Week 13 is behind us. Bloody awful game week for a lot of managers, with a number of the real key form players this year really letting us down. So I ended up with a pretty hopeless 35 points, and that sent me on a red arrows for the first red arrow in 7 weeks to just outside the top 250k. So not great, but we do get these game weeks from time to time. Who'd have thought Aguero captainers like myself, City hit 4 goals and he doesn't score and doesn't assist any of them. I mean, what are the odds on that? So you can't beat yourselves up too much. Well done to anybody who had Sané or Sterling. They look like really form options. So we're going to chat about that a bit more. So let's draw a line very quickly under Game Week 13 for those reasons. And let's move on to Game Week 14. So what I'm going to chat about this week, number of issues for Game Week 14. We've got the emergence of Spurs. We've got the Man City midfielders. Are they too good to miss out on at the minute? Hazard and Arnautovic, what to do with them? They're causing a little bit of a headache, and I'll explain why later. And of course, Arsenal really hit some form. They're unbeaten, got a really good unbeaten run going. Their fixtures, a bit tricky for the next week or two, and then they really turn. They've got a really good run for around 3 or 4 game weeks. Also going to chat about left field options, the FPL donut, and captaincy options. So let's move on swiftly. Game week 14. So let's start with that list of stuff. So on Spurs, I watched Spurs last night. They played Inter. They did well to get a 1-0 win. From an FPL perspective, I'm sorry Spurs fans, but I was hoping that you might get a bad result last night, and that will make life easier from an FPL point of view, and particularly a player on everybody's mind at the minute, given that Tottenham's fixtures really improved dramatically, and they've got a really nice run from Game Week 15 onwards. So everyone's thoughts behind getting Harry Kane. That could be a really great move. I think what's really put me off that, now that they've got this big match coming up against Barcelona, is the fact that their fixtures are as intense, if not maybe the most intense. I can't think of a team off the top of my head in the Prem who've got a massive Champions League tie on the horizon, but also a quarter-final of the Carabao Cup. So these are season-defining matches. So if you're Pochettino, obviously you've got to go over to Barcelona and go all out for the win. Likewise, they're playing Arsenal in the quarter-final of the Carabao Cup. I think it's interesting that one of the ties is Middlesbrough versus Burton. So that means that the other 3 teams you'd expect, I think Chelsea to beat Bournemouth and City to prevail as well. So that means that you've got one of Spurs or Arsenal, and the potential opponents are Chelsea, City, or the winner of Borough and Burton. So it's a pretty incentivising route to the final. So I can't really see, and Spurs fans will correct me if I've got this way off, I can't really see Spurs putting a reserve team out in a quarter-final against Arsenal. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. I can see them wanting to go full strength with that one. Of course, the Champions League game against Barcelona, they need goals, they need to win. They've got to look to Kane to get those goals. So that puts a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Kane. And as FPL managers, you look at the fixtures, they've got people like Southampton at home, they've got Burnley coming up at home. And you look at that and you think, if this guy, he's not Superman. He can't play every single week. They're going to have to protect him a little bit. I was interested to see that I think they play Leicester away on a Saturday evening, and then they play Barcelona on the Tuesday evening. So it's not much rest time. Kane surely he's got to be crucial to them getting through in the Champions League in that Barcelona match. So it really makes me quite nervous now, and I was really planning on looking at a way to bring Kane in. I really had my eye on doing that, but he's a top price player, second only to Salah, and I've argued all season I don't have Salah in my team, and I don't believe that he's worth, or any player for that matter, is worth the premium top bracket price unless they're on top form, and unless you're probably going to captain them. Now, I've got quite a big reservation now on Kane, given that a couple of problems. One, I wouldn't have said he's on brilliant form, so I had a look at his stats earlier today, and I did a bit of a ratio. I divided the number of games he played in the Prem by the number of goals for the last 3 seasons, and he was coming out between 1.05 and 1.2, so a goal every 1.05 or 1.2 games. And at the minute, if you do the same calculation, he's at 1.8. So far this season, he's not performing at the levels he has done. He's got all these matches coming close together, and a couple of those matches, as I've said, non-Premier League matches, are season-defining, really critical matches. The other thing that puts me off Spurs, what's going on with their pitch? It looks like somebody's done tractor racing on it or something like that. That doesn't bode well, I don't think, for when you're trying to play a nice, slick, attacking brand of football, and somebody, it looks like they've been growing potatoes on there. That pitch is only going to get worse in the English winter, as we know is often very rainy. So I'm not sitting here preaching to people completely drop the idea of Kane. I'm sitting here saying, as somebody who was really considering that move, and that move needs to happen pretty quick. That'll be this midweek, of course. I'm a little bit put off by that at the minute. So that's Kane. Man City midfielders, are they too good to miss? Yes, I think so exciting to see Sterling and Sané. They're getting, imagine if you had those guys in your team for game week 13. I think you'd have scored probably, 30 plus points on their own, and that's without captaining one of them. Have we got some other options as well? Silva, of course, I think he must have got, top of my head, 9 or 10 points probably in that game. So City scoring loads of goals, dead exciting. Problem, are they going to get rotated? You betcha. Absolutely, they're going to get rotated. Can we maybe excuse them on the basis that when they do play, they get an absolute bucket load of points? I think we probably can. That brings us on to Arsenal. Have they got the form? Yes. Have they got some good fixtures coming up? Yes. Who am I excited by? Well, probably, I talked about this earlier in the season, I think there's probably only 3 you can rely on. Bellerin, Lacazette and Aubameyang. Even Aubameyang, though, we've seen him get rotated and he's done well when he's come on. Emery has demonstrated that this is a guy not afraid. He dropped Ozil the other week. People like me earlier in the season have Mkhitaryan, and he went from playing every single game week to being the sub. This is a guy not afraid of rotation. So those top players, Bellerin, Aubameyang, Lacazette, are they going to get rotated in this Christmas period? You bet you they're going to get rotated as well. People are worried about Hazard and Arnie. I put out a tweet earlier in the week saying I'm a bit worried now. These guys have got some injuries. Are they taking up a place in the team that you might be able to move on to someone else? So could Hazard, for example, become Sterling or Sané? Maybe. Why would you sell Hazard or Arnautovic? The reason would be you're worried about rotation. But like I've said, everybody's going to get rotations. The whole point of this little section is that my conclusion is rotation, a bit like the bad weather and the snow and the frost. It's coming, and we can't do anything about it, and we can't really predict it. We've just got to try and almost weather the storm a little bit. And I've always said this from game week 1, and this is a thing that I've said all the years I've played FPL. You've got to have 15 players that play every week. So if you don't, now's the time, because you're going to get game weeks when maybe only 9 or 10 of your players play over Christmas, and there's a hell of a lot of rotation. So if you don't have a full bench to cover you, then you may be down to 6 or 7 players that are playing. So that's really, really important. And I think finally the point I'd sort of end on this for game week 14 and 15 is that you can't get too hung up about the rotation stuff. There's only 20 people in the whole planet who know about the rotation, and that's the 20 Premier League managers. They're the ones that are going to pick the team. You can second guess it all you want. I've seen people saying things like they think Aguero will get rested for game week 15. Well, how do we know he won't get rested on game week 14? How do we know he won't play both? In a roundabout way, going back to the Kane thing, the fact that Aguero has Jesus, or however you want to say it, as his almost understudy or backup, in a roundabout way is kind of a positive thing, because it means that he can take some of the burden off Aguero in some of these bigger non-Premier League matches, whereas poor old Kane doesn't really have that, and they need to look to him the whole time, and that's gonna wear him out. So in summary, rotation, it's coming, you need to deal with it. So that's game week 14. Let's chat, shall we, about some left field options ahead of game week 14 and game week 15. I noticed last night I mentioned Spurs, a defender that's back. He's been injured. His price has dropped a bit. He's down to 5.9 as his defensive partner. And the player I'm talking about is Jan Vertonghen. Of course, the other player I'm talking about is Toby Alderweireld. I think they could be great value as we come into the Christmas period. Again, with the caveat, you've got to be careful for rotation. They've got Sanchez, I don't know, is he injured? And this other guy, I want to say Forsyth, but I know it's not his name. Is it Foyth or something like that? The young South American guy. So yes, there's probably going to be some rotation there, but as bargain options go, they look pretty good. Those who follow me on Twitter will know I on the one hand was lucky enough to go, but on the other hand the misfortune, because it was a terrible game. I went to Everton and Cardiff over the weekend, and the player that saved me from or made the afternoon, if you like, because it was absolutely freezing sat there, but I had the pleasure of watching Andre Gomez. What a player he is. Beautifully technically gifted midfield player. I'm not sure I'm a bit on the fence as to whether he can become an FPL asset, or whether he's a player that I used to describe Modric as the player who assists the assister. So David Silva used to have a little bit of this problem, in that he'd be the player who'd play a brilliant through ball into the wing and somebody else would cross it in and someone else would score. So looks brilliant from a pure football kind of way, but doesn't translate into FPL points. But he did look pretty attacking, got forward a couple of times. Pretty cheap. I think he's 5.4, so maybe if you are looking at a Kane or something like that and you can't afford Richarlison, you need an enabler, or you can't afford Sigurdsson, he could be one to look to. Certainly will have low ownership. And then for the striker this week, I've gone for a man who did bounce back. He's had a really slow start to the season. Why I'm interested in this player is he's playing for a real form team. I talked about them earlier in the season, and I was confident that they would get back on track, and they have done. 10 points out of the last 12, and that's Rondon from Newcastle. The other thing I really like about this guy, if you check it out on YouTube, there's a Newcastle fan who's put a chant about Rondon, so he's got like quite a cool chant, and I'm quite a stickler for strikers that have their own song, just, I don't know, for my own amusement. So if you do have him in your team and he scores, you're definitely humming that song for the whole of the weekend, and maybe the whole of Christmas if he really delivers for you. So they're my 3 left field tips. Okay, a couple more things to do. FPL Donut are an absolute stonewaller this weekend. James Maddison, what are you doing? Commiserations to anyone who held on to him during his injury. A little silver lining is that he was banned, but that game, they had a cup game in midweek, so that meant he missed that one, and he's now back for the Prem. But pretty annoying to have a guy sent off, I think inside half an hour as well, which is pretty mad for 2 yellow cards. So James Maddison, you are the FPL donut. And then finally, let's chat about captains. I'm absolutely waxing lyrical at the minute over Man City. Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth aren't on a great run. I don't think it matters hugely who Man City play at the minute. They seem likely to score. I watched the midweek. They played Lyon. Didn't play that well. I think they played probably about 20 minutes at the start of the second half. They were at the level that perhaps we've seen this season. But like all good teams, they found a way to get a result, and they still scored 2 goals despite not playing fantastically well. So, Aguero, Sterling, I think City are doing that well that even if these players don't start, even as long as they get half an hour pitch time, there's still a great chance they could get a goal or maybe more, because City are playing that well at the minute. So I think that's the safe bet. The other option on paper that looks okay is Hazard at home to Chelsea, but when you peel that back a bit, Hazard at home to Chelsea, Hazard at home to Fulham, you peel that back a bit. They've got the new manager effect with Ranieri. You've got Ranieri going back to Chelsea. You've got Hazard, who apparently hasn't been fit. Is he going to play on Sunday? Not sure. Maybe we'll know more before the weekend. But I think you've got to be pretty confident with Hazard if you're going to go against the Man City players. So hope that is of value. Hope you've enjoyed that. Shout out as ever to my Patreon guys. I'm currently putting together, I was just writing it actually last night, a video all about how I think you should handle the strategy, the FPL strategy for this Christmas period. So it's something like, what is it, 8 game weeks in the next, 5 weeks, something like that. Seasons are won and lost at Christmas in many ways. So if you're interested in checking that out, I'll put a link up below, and it'd be great to have you on board. So I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to do another video before game week 15, but that's why I've tried to be quite comprehensive in this one and cover quite a lot of the issues. So if I don't speak to you then, I'll speak to you before the following weekend, game week 16. So have a great game week, and don't forget, Friday deadline, don't let that catch you out. Cardiff Wolves live on telly, so hopefully that's a decent start to the weekend.